All right, let's do a little bit more math work. We'll take a look at how to determine how many milligrams of the local anesthetic drug identified by the suffix caine, articaine, lidocaine, prilocaine, or mepivacaine, and also how to calculate the vasoconstrictor, and we will concentrate on epinephrine. We will also talk about weight-based and absolute MRD, which is maximum recommended dosage, and limiting factors. So in this equation we have delivered 4 cartridges of 4% articaine with 1 to 100,000 epinephrine. The cartridge is 1.7 milliliters. First, we will determine the number of milligrams that we have delivered of articaine. So 4%, that means 40 milligrams of articaine is contained in every 1 milliliter of water. The local anesthetic cartridge that we use is 1.7 milliliters. So here we can see the mLs cross out, one's on the top, one's on the bottom, and we end up with 68 milligrams of articaine in each cartridge. Now we have to go back to our equation because most of the time we don't stop there. We haven't just delivered one cartridge. So we go back and it says we've delivered 4 cartridges. So we've delivered multiple cartridges. And because of that, we multiply. So we have 68 milligrams of articaine multiplied by 4 cartridges, which equals 272 milligrams of articaine that was delivered in the 4 cartridges. Now we're not done. The next thing we need to do is determine the number of milligrams of epinephrine. So we can see here that we have 1 to 100,000 epinephrine. So what does that mean? That means 0.01 milligrams of epinephrine are contained in each milliliter of water. But just like with the articaine, our cartridge is 1.7 milliliters. So that means in this cartridge that we delivered 0.017 milligrams of epinephrine. But just like the last equation, we can't stop there. We have to go back and figure out how many cartridges did we deliver. So we've delivered multiple cartridges, so then we multiply 0.017 milligrams of epinephrine in each cartridge multiplied by 4 cartridges equals 0.068 milligrams of epinephrine that was delivered in 4 cartridges. So now you have delivered 3 cartridges of 3% mepivacaine plain. And when you see the word plain in the problem, it means that there is no vasoconstrictor. It's only mepivacaine within the cartridge, so you need to just determine one drug amount that you've delivered. So it's just mepivacaine. The cartridge is 1.8 milliliters. So what does 3% mean? It means 30 milligrams of mepivacaine in 1 milliliter of water. The cartridge up here is 1.8 milliliters. So we multiply and we determine that we get 54 milligrams of mepivacaine per cartridge. We go back to the equation and we can see it says you have delivered 3 cartridges. So multiple cartridges we will multiply. So we have 54 milligrams of mepivacaine multiplied by 3 cartridges delivered, And that equals 156 milligrams of mepivacaine that we delivered in the 3 cartridges. Let's review MRD, maximum recommended dose. There is an absolute maximum. No patient, regardless of size, weight, or health status, should be given more than this amount of a drug in an appointment. The way we calculate the MRD is to calculate the number of cartridges that can be safely administered. And how we do that is the drug MRD in milligrams goes in the numerator or the top, and the drug milligrams per cartridge goes in the denominator or below. MRD may also be calculated by weight. So this is an individual's personal MRD because it is calculated by their specific weight. You use the weight-based MRD for smaller patients who cannot tolerate the same amount of drug as a typical standard patient who is about 150 pounds. So you'll calculate an individual's MRD by weight and then calculate the allowable cartridges. So you will use the MRD milligrams per pound multiplied by the patient's weight in pounds, and that will give you the MRD for that patient. And we'll take a look at how we do that in the next few slides. So for the next few slides, the first thing we want to do is we always want to be safe. So for this patient, we're going to calculate their maximum recommended dose for, lidocaine and also for epinephrine. So let's take a look. Marisol is healthy and she weighs 112 pounds. So that should cue you significantly under 150, we're going to need to use the weight-based MRD. So we're going to deliver 3 cartridges, 1.8 milliliters each cartridge of 2% lidocaine. So the absolute MRD for lidocaine is 500 milligrams, and the weight-based MRD is 3.2 milligrams per pound. The patient weighs 112. We are using 2% lidocaine. What does that mean? 20 milligrams of lidocaine in a milliliter of water multiplied by the amount of the cartridge, which is 1.8 milliliters. So we know that we have 36 milligrams of lidocaine in 1 cartridge. So for Marisol, we're going to use the weight-based. So now we have to calculate. So the weight-based MRD for lidocaine is 3.2 milligrams per pound. So that's what this looks like in an equation, 3.2 milligrams over 1 pound, multiplied by how much she weighs, which is 112 pounds. The pounds cross off because one's on the top and one's on the bottom. And you end up for Marisol, this 112-pound person, her maximum recommended dose is 358 milligrams of lidocaine. It's not 500 because she doesn't weigh that much. So how do we figure out how many cartridges that equals? So we put the weight-based MRD on the numerator on the top. On the bottom, we put how much of the drug is in each cartridge, and we calculated that up here. So it's 36 milligrams per cartridge. Milligrams cross off, and we end up with 9.9 cartridges. So 9.9 cartridges is the maximum safe or recommended dose for this 112-pound patient based solely on lidocaine. But if we go back up here, we can see that there's another drug in that cartridge, epinephrine. So now we have to calculate that. So in a previous slide, we went through this. What does epinephrine 1 to 100,000 mean? It means 0.01 milligrams of epinephrine per milliliter of water. Our cartridge here is 1.8 milliliters, and that means that we have 0.018 milligrams of epinephrine in one cartridge. So for Marisol, you can see I didn't give you an MRD for epinephrine because that is something that you're going to need to memorize. So we have a healthy MRD of epinephrine, which is 0.2. And then we have a maximum recommended dose based on a cardiovascular patient, someone with heart disease, high blood pressure, and that's 1/5 the dose, or 0.04. So you will have to memorize those numbers as the maximum recommended dose of epinephrine for the healthy patient and for the cardiovascular patient. So I go up here, it says she is healthy. Okay, so now I know I need to divide the MRD of the vasoconstrictor for a healthy patient, which is 0.2 milligrams of epinephrine, over the 0.018 milligrams of epinephrine per cartridge, right? Milligrams of epi, cross out, and then I get 11 cartridges for this healthy patient. So 11 cartridges is the maximum safe or recommended dose for this healthy patient based on epinephrine. So 9.9 cartridges is the maximum safe or recommended dose for Marisol based on the lidocaine. 11 cartridges is the maximum safe or recommended dose for Marisol based on the epinephrine. Which drug's maximum recommended or safe dose do we reach first? And that's the lidocaine. So for this 112-pound healthy person, lidocaine is her limiting drug or limiting factor. We can only deliver 9.9 cartridges because we've reached the maximum recommended or safe dose of lidocaine first. Now we got the maximum recommended dose. Now we actually have to figure out how much we've delivered. Back to the equation. We're going to determine the number of milligrams of lidocaine first. The 2% means 20 milligrams of lidocaine over a milliliter of water multiplied by the amount in the cartridge, which is 1.8. We can see it up here in milliliters. 36 milligrams of lidocaine per cartridge. How many do we deliver? We've delivered 3. Multiple cartridges, we multiply. 36 milligrams of lidocaine multiplied by 3 cartridges equals 108 milligrams of lidocaine is what Marisol was delivered. But she has a second drug to milligrams of epinephrine. So 1 to 100,000 epinephrine means 0.01 milligrams of epinephrine in a milliliter of water. Our cartridge is 1.8 milliliters. So we multiply the 1.8 milliliter per cartridge, which then gives us 0.018 milligrams of epinephrine in one cartridge. We go back, we've delivered 3 cartridges, multiple cartridges we multiply. 0.018 milligrams of epinephrine in one cartridge multiplied by 3 cartridges gives us 0.054 milligrams of epinephrine in 3 cartridges. Oh, now it's a little different. Uh-oh. So now Marisol has high blood pressure and weighs 200 pounds. So now we're delivering 2 cartridges, and each cartridge is 1.7 milliliters with 1 to 100,000 epinephrine. Absolute MRD of lidocaine is 500, weight-based is 3.2. So she is well over 150 pounds, so we're going to use now the absolute MRD, which is 500 milligrams. So let's determine how many milligrams of lidocaine are in each cartridge. So here we have our 2%, which equals 20 milligrams of lidocaine per 1 milliliter of water. The cartridge here is 1.7. So that gives us 20 milligrams times 1.7 milliliters equals 34 milligrams per cartridge. So 500 milligrams is the absolute MRD, which goes in the numerator or the top, which is divided by how many milligrams are in each cartridge. And in this particular case, it's 34 milligrams of lidocaine in each cartridge, which is 14.7 cartridges. So 14.7 cartridges is the maximum safe dose or recommended dose for this 200-pound patient based on the lidocaine. But let's look at the epinephrine now. So the epinephrine, 1 to 100,000, 0.01 milligrams of epi in 1 milliliter of water multiplied by 1.7 milliliters per cartridge, right up here, gives us 0.017 milligrams of epi in every cartridge. Now we have to use the cardiovascular MRD of the vasoconstrictor epinephrine here, and that is 0.04 milligrams. So you have to kind of deduce that this person has high blood pressure. I need to use the cardiovascular MRD of the vasoconstrictor. That's 0.04 milligrams, which will be divided by 0.017 milligrams of epi per cartridge. Ooh, this is low. Look at this. 2.3 cartridges for this cardiovascular patient is the maximum safe or maximum recommended dose. So let's look at the limiting drug. So the limiting drug, 14.7 cartridges is the maximum safe or recommended dose for Marisol based on the lidocaine. But 2.35 cartridges is the maximum safe or recommended dose for Marisol based on the epinephrine. Which drug's maximum recommended dose do we reach first? And we reach 2 cartridges first. So we need to limit the amount we give Marisol based on the epinephrine, because we can only give her 2 cartridges because she will max out based on the epinephrine because she is a cardiovascular patient. And now we have to go back to see how much we've actually given her. So 2% again, 20 milligrams of lidocaine multiplied by 1.7 milliliter cartridge, 34 milligrams of lidocaine per cartridge. How many did we deliver? We delivered 2. Multiplied by 2, 68 milligrams of lidocaine in 2 cartridges. We've also given epinephrine. So 0.01 milligrams of epinephrine multiplied by 1.7 milliliter cartridge equals 0.017 milligrams of epinephrine per cartridge. We've delivered 2 cartridges, which is 0.034 milligrams of epinephrine that we've delivered. And you can see how close we're actually getting here with the 2 cartridges to that 0.04. She's only 6/100ths away from being at her maximum recommended dose based on the epinephrine. All right, I hope you find it helpful.